I wanted Hermes Desktop to replace Codex. I really did. But after using it, I'm coming back to Codex. Hermes is probably closer to the type of agent I would want in the future. It has memory, it has scheduled tasks, it has skills, it has profiles. So on paper it should have been the one. It kept adding friction where on paper it should have been better than Codex, and Codex just got out of the way. So in this video, we'll walk you through what Hermes Agent is, how to set it up, what it can do, and why currently it's not yet ready to replace your Codex or Claude agents. So let's start with what's really exciting about Hermes Agent. Hermes in its terminal form is an incredibly powerful agent, same as OpenClaw. These terminal type agents are powerful because they can operate on your computer. They can touch files, they can run commands, they can do everything that you can do while chat apps can't. And the problem is that most people don't want to run an agent from a terminal. They don't know what a terminal is, and they definitely don't want to think about things like Docker, terminal, sandboxing, API keys, and other things that get in the way of regular users. So when Hermes Desktop came out, I thought, all right, that's great. Finally, there is a bridge for regular users to start using those agents. Maybe this takes this powerful terminal agent idea and makes it work for regular users. And the feature list is genuinely impressive. You have agent profiles, you have SOUL.md files, which are basically the identity of the agent. You have memory, you have skills, you have scheduled jobs. You can connect messaging platforms, you can use browser tools. You're not locked into the one model provider in the same way you are with a lot of other tools. If you care about choosing models, running models locally for privacy or other reasons, Hermes is the agent that will allow you to do that versus other closed source providers. So when people say that Hermes is more of a real agent, I understand where it comes from. I'm using it myself. I just feel like people saying that this is the best daily tool for agents now are overhyping it and are not considering regular users yet. So if you're trying Hermes Agent for the first time, here's a breakdown of key steps you need to do. So first, downloading it from the internet is much easier versus installing it in a terminal. Second thing you would need to do is to choose a model provider. For now, the best choice for most people, I would say, is to use OpenAI subscriptions. Since Anthropic cut off access to the third-party tools, you cannot use their models unless you're using an API. And this becomes too expensive too quickly for most people. Hermes is also heavily promoting their own model right away, but I haven't heard or learned enough good things about it to give them my money right away. Next thing I would suggest you to do is to explain to the agent all of the things that it needs to know about you, because it becomes very useful when it knows all the things that you know. So the context about your work, context about what are you trying to build, what are your goals, what are the things that you're doing outside of work if you're trying maybe to do a YouTube or a podcast or a newsletter. So explaining all of this to the agent and sending this so that it saves it in the memory is the best starting point that you can do. The next thing that I would suggest is start a boring task. Send in a file for analysis. Start doing something with it that you would do instead in Codex or Claude. So after that, I would suggest creating a profile, something like a YouTube scriptwriter or a researcher. Whatever it is that you're doing in your day-to-day job, if you're a financial analyst, create a financial analyst profile so that it has all of the things in its mind right away as you have. We'll go over what profiles are and how to create them later in this video. And then only after you've set it up, I would suggest to try out things like skills, sub-agents, messaging through Telegram, and other different aspects of the agent. This is how I would tell a normal person to start. And the reason I'm spelling this out is because a normal app would walk you through all of the things it can do and how to set it up. Hermes currently doesn't do that. And that for a new user is pretty hard to onboard. I think it assumes that most users will be those heavy terminal users that already know everything about Hermes and they can onboard quickly, which I think is a mistake. So as I started using it, it felt more capable, but at the same time added a lot of friction. So for example, if I ask an agent to help me create a YouTube script, organize folders, or create an automation, I don't want to be managing it. I don't want to finish a task and wonder where the file is, how to open it, how to connect an MCP integration, what files it has access to or doesn't. It's an overkill for a regular user. And that's the problem I've kept running into Hermes. It is more agentic, but Codex more often got me to the finished thing, and it feels like a more finished end user product. So the first big issue is scoping and security. For me, the agent should live within a specific context. If I open Codex, I can choose a folder to work with, and I know that it has access to these files, to this folder, and it's contained. Same idea as Cloud Code. But with Hermes, working directory and sandboxing are separate things that you need to understand. If you just run it locally, it will give access to all of the files that you have on your computer, which for me is a bit of an overkill. And this is where sandboxing matters. Sandboxing basically means that the agent is not running directly on your computer. You run its commands in a separate contained environment like Docker or a separate cloud instance. Local is an easier option because it can see all of the files that you can see, and it's easier to set it up for an end user. But there's also a risk. It's operating within the same files that you are. It has access to everything. So one, it can do something that you didn't want it to do, and two, if there's a prompt injection and somebody managed to take control of your agent or make it do something, it can access and give the files to the attacker. Of course, for that, you have manual approvals, but again, who wants to approve every action of an agent? In that case, I'd rather have something less capable but automatic than have to confirm every action just to make sure I'm safe. And let's be honest, most regular people don't even know what Docker is or a cloud machine. So Docker is safer because it's not running on your whole machine, it's contained and only has access to the folder that you mount on it. So you're basically setting it up in a specific folder and everything runs on Docker. But again, for regular users, it's an overkill. Not everybody knows what Docker is, how to mount a specific folder on it, and how to run those permissions. Cloud and remote sandboxing are even safer, but then you have to upload all of your files to this cloud to make sure that it can work on them, which for most people is absolutely inconvenient. If it can work on your machine in your folders, uploading them to the cloud and downloading them back is very inconvenient. The thing that bothered me is when I was installing Hermes Agent, it didn't really ask me where it wants to run it, it just installed it locally. And then I had to go through settings to find that I can change the execution to Docker or cloud or anything else. Maybe that means that they're trying to make it safer, and definitely means that they're trying to focus on regular users. And this is where I started feeling a gap between powerful and comfortable. Yes, it's better, it's much nicer wrapper, but it's still not ready for an end user. It's still complex, it's still not as safe as you would want it to be, and managing all of these things requires you to have AI-based knowledge. And if you want to target those regular users to run those agents and set everything up, you have to make it much simpler and in a much more pre-packaged way. And Codex feels less ambitious here. You open it up, you open a specific folder, and you know that you're working in it. Of course, you don't have all of the things that Hermes Agent offers, but it's a much more end-user ready experience. And then matters when Agent is touching your end files on your computer. Now, I don't want it to sound like Hermes is bad or this is a one-sided message. Here's what's really good about it. Profiles in SOUL.md is a great idea. It gives your agent identity. It gives it persistent style and persistent persona. You can have one agent for working with YouTube, one with email, one with financial analysis, and all of them will have their own operational model, skills, and memory. Hermes feels more like building a real team of capable agents. Codex has customization too, but you can customize only the main model and the main agent. So if you try to make it do any YouTube scripting, it's almost like giving a software developer all of the skills and instructions to do it. It will do it 80% well, but it's not gonna do it as well as hiring a YouTube expert and doing it for you. So that's where I feel Codex is falling behind, because whatever I'm doing, it has the same system, the same agent trying to do everything. And the same thing goes with Cloud Code and Cloud Cowork. None of them are there yet, and that's why profiles are amazing. So for example, I made a YouTube agent called Jimmy. Yeah, that Mr. Beast Jimmy. So the idea is Jimmy is not a general professional, he's my YouTube brain. It knows how YouTube works. It knows my thumbnail, my title styles, it knows how I like to write scripts. It can do everything. So instead of starting from a blank chat, this specific agent has all of the skills and understanding of what it needs to do, plus all of the memories related to the things we've done in the past with it. And this is amazing about Hermes. You can create agents for each workflow, and with time they get more and more powerful. Maybe in the future they will also make it so that within the Hermes Desktop app they can talk to each other. So if you're asking an agent that does YouTube, and it can talk to the agent that's very good at marketing and does something else. By the way, if this video gets 1,000 likes, I will drop all of the skills that I'm using for my YouTube production, including writing titles, thumbnails, scripts, and choosing where to add B-roll for free on my website, and you can use them and download them. But even here, where Hermes should be the strongest, I kept running into friction points where it wouldn't allow me to immediately open files it generated. It wouldn't run skills right away. It sometimes would wander off on my computer doing something that I didn't even ask it to do. Partially because it's not fully contained to a specific folder and it's harder for it to try to manage everything. So another amazing thing about these agent systems is sub-agents. To help you understand the difference between the profiles and sub-agents, here's the difference. Profiles are more like employees. Jimmy is my YouTube employee. Another profile could be my email employee. Another could be my research employee. Each one has its own memory, its own instruction, its own way of working. Sub-agents are different. They're not permanent employees in the same way. They're more like temporary workers that one of these employees spins up when the job is too broad to do well in one pass. For now, the biggest use case is research for me. Let's say that I want to do some research on competitors. If I run one agent doing this, it will do very generic high-level overview of all of the competitors and present you with a report, which is not the quality that you would want when you spend a lot of time on this. For example, if you yourself would do it, you would probably go in depth on each competitor, summarize each one, then try to create the final report across all of them. And that's where sub-agents come in. You can ask the orchestrator agent to spawn whatever number of sub-agents you want, and each one will research a specific competitor in depth. It will dedicate all of the context window, all of the things that it does specifically on this competitor, and that will give you much more depth of research that will be sent back to the orchestrator. And this whole process will give you much better in-depth results than just running one agent on this very hard task. But the thing is, I was already doing it in Claude Code. Perplexity Computer is amazing in that. Codex is okay-ish, but Hermes isn't unique in this. Alright, let's talk skills. The skills idea is excellent. A skill is basically a reusable playbook. This is where Hermes Agent shines. Whenever you work with it, it will create those skills automatically so that you can reuse them in the future. I honestly don't know why Codex or Claude haven't added this yet. Even Odysseus from PewDiePie has it, but I guess it was kind of inspired by it. But in a desktop app, the skills experience isn't that obvious either. It has a long list of skills, most of which are not relevant to you at all. So you're better off turning them off because it won't have to reference them, and it also will conserve some context window usage and will cost you less in the long term. There's no add skill button. So how do I add a skill? I guess I have to talk to an agent about it, which is fine for technical users, but for your regular users, they won't know how to do it. There's no chat with the agent button to add the skill. To be fair, Codex isn't perfect here either. They do have skills, but adding them also happens through the chat. Hermes also has tools. Tools are a new innovation on top of skills. It's effectively chaining the skills together into a more reusable workflow. So if you could imagine, if I'm doing my YouTube production and I need to create a title, a thumbnail, a script, and then based on the script figure out which B-roll to add, all of these things I wouldn't package into one skill, but then it would be just not good enough. And it would be too generic. So typically I would run them as separate skills, but making them run automatically one after another is almost near impossible unless you do some coding around it. So creating this kind of tool where you chain all of these skills, so when it's done with a title, it automatically goes to the thumbnail, automatically goes to the script writing, is a good idea. How much it will work and how many people will be setting this up is still a question to me. And this brings me to the small thing that annoyed me more than it should have. When Codex or Claude generate files, they show a preview of it, or an ability to click on it and see it. I can open it, I can copy from it, I can edit it, I can do whatever I want with it. And this way, the output feels like part of the conversation. With Hermes, it felt like it created it and sent to me in letters where it's located, but I had to access it through Finder, I had to find it there. And it's not the experience that I want as an end user. If it created something for me, why not show it as an artifact? So as an end user, having to leave the app to do something else feels like a missing experience. All right, so the automation side is where it gets much more interesting. Most people are using AI manually. They open a chat, ask a question, get the answer, and close it. But a lot of useful work should not make you open anything, like daily research briefs, weekly planning, competitor research, content reminders. All of these should happen automatically. The agent should be able to run it in the background. And this is where scheduled agents shine. Hermes can do scheduled tasks. You can set them up in the interface, but you have to do it manually. There's no templates or examples, and there's no chat with the agent button so that it helps me create this automation. While in Codex, these automations feel better to manage. You immediately have some templates, and it has chat with the agent button to help you create the automation for natural language. The whole thing just feels more natural from an end user perspective. So in Hermes, these agent tasks felt like configuring an agent system, which is fine for some people, but for an end user, it's not there yet. I truly believe that automations and agents are future of AI, but most people don't know what to automate. They don't know what parts of their job or their life they can automate and what agents are capable of. So I created 3 resources for that, and I will link them in the description. The first is an automation advisor agent profile. You can use it in Hermes or any other agentic tool. The job of an agent is to learn about your work, your memories, your routines, and suggest automations to create. The second is a skill creator skill. Skill creator skill. If you have repeated work but don't know how to get it into a skill, it will help you figure it out and create the skill as well. The third one is an automation creator skill. That one helps you with actual instructions for a scheduled agent. So instead of staring at this blank automation box and thinking, what do I write there or what can I automate? This skill will help you figure out what to automate and create this automation. Again, those are free and linked below. And this is why I care so much about the difference between Hermes and Codex. The automations are the future of AI, but if it feels too technical, most people are not going to use them. So the connector and MCP story is similar here. If agent is going to help you do real work, it needs access to all of the tools that you have access to. Email, Slack, GitHub, Linear, whatever you have access to, you need to give access to the agent to be able to do the same things you do. In Codex, it's very simple. You have a list of connections, you click one, you connect it, done. Hermes also has MCP connections, but the connection is technical. If you have to explain to an end user what an MCP is, how to connect it, how to write it out, most will drop off. This is not the kind of experience I hoped I would have on the desktop app. Most users don't care that it's an MCP or whatever the technology is. They just care that it connects and it can do the job. A real world example is digital concert tickets. If you buy a ticket, you don't care what technology powers it to be digital. You just care that it allows you to get into the concert and enjoy it. So until they improve this, it won't work on regular users. And I'm surprised they didn't do it yet because there's so many providers that allow you to pre-connect multiple MCPs. I also want to talk about the model choice. This is where Hermes has really an advantage over other tools. It can run across any AI model, so you're not tied to a specific AI company. So if you like experimenting, want to use local models, care about privacy, this is where it shines, and it allows you to connect different models to different profiles. So you can say that this YouTube model is run by ChatGPT because it's better at writing. The software developer model is run by Claude because it's more capable. But for most people, choosing a local model or between different model providers won't matter as much. The only thing that will matter is that it does the job. It reads your emails, it does your automations, and you're not going to be trying to experiment with various model providers or various local models to try to cross-compare them, figure out which is better at which. A regular person would just go and use it. Of course, it's useful that you can use whatever subscription that you have, but again, most people don't care. That said, I still think that Hermes is pointing at the right direction. If you ask me what I want this agent to become, I want it to become an agent that remembers everything that I say, that has different profiles, can spawn sub agents. It's easy to add skills and run them. It's easy to connect different MCPs. It can run on different models that I want to run it on because I'm a more advanced AI user. It can show all of the files properly and it's sandbox, or I can choose which folder it has access to right away. So each profile is connected to a specific folder. But the version as of now is not there yet. It's kind of in between being end user ready and the terminal version. Terminal version has much more flexibility and has everything that you might need and want it to do. but you have to do it through technicalities that end users cannot do, while this version of the desktop is just not end user ready. It feels like it's missing a few steps, a few things that will make it end user ready. And that's why I'm saying I'm switching to Codex back, because for now with Codex, I can focus on the task rather than the process of doing it.